Words cannot describe how excited we are to get Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala on this edition of ET Interview. Given that all of us are living in new normal, he is one voice millions of investors really want to understand and hear that how can one prepare and reorient their life and their portfolios in this new normal. We'll start a bit about what his understanding of the crisis is, and later on, we'll understand how he's dealing with this crisis personally. Mr. Jhunjhunwala, thank you for joining us. Hope everything is fine and safe with you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me in.
Mr. Jhunjhunwala, we always start our interaction historically with a view on market or economy, but today I want to start differently. I want to first start with your take on what do you think this crisis will change in terms of life, social life, and other behavioral aspects.
See, as for me personally, I think it's been blown out of all proportion, created unnecessary fear psychosis, right? After all, it's a flu. It's not a plague, it's not a cancer, right? And for those below the age of 60, or those without morbidities, it's just a flu, right? And it has to be treated that way. I think the long-term implication will be, I don't think anything's going to change. We are going to travel, we are going to go to restaurants, right? We are going to eat what we want. What it has changed for me is, it has made me realize even in a greater manner how small we are in front of nature and the Almighty. Also, we cannot go on abusing the earth and the environment beyond a point. Right? So I think climate change, clean energy, all that should get a big film. And I don't think beyond that, 6 months, 9 months later, it's going to change much. वो बोलते हैं ना कि शमशान के व्यवहार होते हैं, तो वो वैसे ही है. Once you come out, once some cure comes, something comes, we'll forget all about it. We're going to go to the same restaurants, fly the same flights, visit the same places. So life is going to come back to normal faster than people think. I think the lockdown was very much needed, but this is a war. So we needed a lockdown to prepare for the war. But you can't fight a war from the trenches. We have to fight it on the field. So I think we have to open up things. There will be cases. We have to create a health infrastructure and we have to treat the cases. We have had 6,000 deaths so far in India. We lose about 220,000 deaths a year from traffic accidents. Airplanes crash. Don't you travel, Nikunj? Don't you travel by car, despite knowing that accidents take place? So life will go back to normal, despite the fact that, knowing that somebody can get the COVID. And if you look, and I don't think this mask and social distancing is going to be really maintained. I just got a video of how Paris is today. I mean, everybody is clubbed together and nobody's wearing a mask. So I think life is going to go back to normal faster than you think. We create the health infrastructure, right? And we treat the patients and move on in life.
So personally for you,
I think we should work to get out of this fear psychosis. I think unnecessary, unwanted fear psychosis has been created. Also remember that those patients who face challenges also, as doctors are treating them, they are able to treat them better. I know some very prominent people who got it, who went into the ICU and are back normal in 2-3 days. So it's not as if it's a bullet on your head or it's a, it's a death warrant.
So I want to bring out your experiences for our viewers and for everybody. In this entire lockdown period, what has been your most joyful moment? What has been your most, stressful moment?
Well, I think the stressful moments were until I could get a grip on how things will play out. Which was until not because of the movement of the market, but at the stage where the cases went on increasing in cumulative. Let us have America had 1 lakh cases and America had 10 lakh cases. But the number of new cases every day did not progress, in the same way as the total number of cases. So if America had 1 lakh cases, there were 5,000. In 10 lakhs, there were 25,000, even at 20 lakhs, there is 25,000. And recoveries are fast. So I thought then, I was initially very apprehensive of what would happen. Then I could come to grips with it. And once I came to grips with the assessment, it was joyful.
When we will look back at this COVID crisis, do you think history will tell us that the heavy hand with which not only global administrator but global administrator have really handled this crisis, that really could be the biggest mistake of modern history?
No, I think what we have to do, see, it's a very unique virus. Normally the virus reveals itself very fast. But it's like a bandit who reveals himself only after the safe is open. So I think what it will tell us is, I think that one thing we have to learn, whether it's China, whether it's America, whether it's India, if a new virus is found, we have to take immediate steps. Second, we have to create the health infrastructure at whatever cost to face such kind of a situation again. Right? And I think beyond that, it will teach us humility. It has taught me more humility than anything else. The human race has to learn how small science is in front of the Almighty and the nature. And we got to respect our environment, be concerned about climate change.
So I'm going to quote you again, which is that bull markets always climb the wall of worry. In this case, markets have managed to climb a mile-long wall of worry. Nasdaq at an all-time high, Indian markets more than 30% from the March low. What is going on, sir?
What's going on? Markets are going up. Markets are anticipating the future. Markets are telling, see, first of all, I have no doubt that one thing which is going to play a very important role is interest rates. Mr. Buffet said that, interest rates act as a gravity on the valuation of all assets. Right? Second thing, they are anticipating that normalcy will come much faster than we anticipate or we are thinking. Right? And the more all these TV anchors are saying that this is about liquidity and it's a liquidity-driven rally, and more the tipsters are telling us every day that, actually it is bearish, but we should buy because markets are going up. As long as you all over tell us it's a liquidity-driven rally, it's not going to stop. Everybody has to participate for it to stop. And what has happened that, see, we had a big fall from 2018 January. After this fall, all the large caps also joined in. Right? And before the start of a bull market, the market shakes you in such a manner, which happened in 2002 with the September 11th attack, that people just forget buying stocks. And Nikunj, remember, this is far different from 2008. Because 2008, you were coming out of an investment boom. Corporate India was highly leveraged. Now I think corporate India is highly cleansed and leverage levels are extremely low. And also in 2008, there was a great participation in the Indian equity markets and the markets worldwide, which is not the case in India at least. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't look, see, markets are indexed at 10,300. Market may go 500 points, 1,000 points, 1,500 points. We don't know before it stops. The real test will be how much does it fall after it stops. And I personally don't think it will fall much. We are in the midst or the birth of what is going to be a good bull market in the world.
You are exactly sounding like the Rakesh Jhunjhunwala I met in 2003. When 9/11 had happened, the world was recovering from the 3MT blowout, but Rakesh Jhunjhunwala went on a television channel, which I used to work with, and he thumped the table, literally, thrice actually, and said, a mother of a bull market is about to start. You were a lonely guy to claim it. And right now you're sounding exactly like that.
I don't know whether the mother is starting or the father is starting, but I know that a good bull market is starting. And every bull market is higher than the last one, is more fiercer than the last one. And when we think about it, the reasons are not apparent. Time will reveal the reason.
Did the March sell-off shake you out? The price action was so fierce on the downside. Did that shake you for a couple of days?
If it didn't shake anybody on the market, then he was not human. It shook every human participant in the market. I was also shaken. And at that moment, I thought we should be prepared for anything and everything.
And has the comeback equally delighted you?
Well, I won't say it has delighted me, it has comforted me. And also that is, I have, in my personal opinion, more grips about COVID than I had that time. I have a more, I have a more informed and more, I would say more sure opinion. I don't know whether I'll be right or wrong.
So will you be surprised that Indian markets make a new high in next 6 months?
Well, that is difficult to predict. I won't be disappointed if markets consolidate. I mean, say, if the Nifty rises, I don't know, 200, 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever points from here, and then passes 6 months' time, what's wrong?
I would encourage you to share your thoughts on this entire liquidity, which everybody seems to be talking about. Liquidity hai, isliye market upar ja raha hai. What could be the end game of this liquidity? Because interest rates will remain low for long. And
so liquidity, matlab kahan se liquidity aata hai? Markets always go up because there is liquidity, because the number of buyers are lesser than the number of sellers. So I don't understand what is the liquidity meaning here. You TV anchors only understand it. I don't understand. Liquidity-driven rally, I don't know. All rallies are liquidity-driven. Who are you to decide the fundamentals? You know 18p is right or 22p is right or 14p is right. So in 16p it is fundamental and 22p it's liquidity-driven. I don't know. I'm not so smart to judge it.
Should one not get complacent about risk of a second wave of virus?
Well, at least in China and Korea, it has not happened. It's not happened in France. It's not happened in America. On the Memorial Day, a lot of people went to the beaches and interacted. We've not seen any upsurge in cases. So we should always be alert. But the evidence so far is that there is no second recurrence anywhere. And 1 or 2 cases are going to come. There are going to be cases. It's the flu. It's not going to go away in a hurry. When the occurrence after you open up becomes greater than when it was closed, then it will be problematic.
So if I could take a leaf from your earlier answer, typically how an economic cycle moves is that first there would be a drop in earnings, then there could be bankruptcy, and then there could be risk capital which could make a comeback. So in your view, this is not going to be like previous cycle and we will see less amount of collateral.
But you are thinking that there will be a lot of bankruptcies. We have all assumed there will be bankruptcies. What is the evidence that there will be bankruptcies? Who knows whether there will be bankruptcies or not? Right? So therefore, then maybe the market is telling us that things are not going to be as bad as we are anticipating. And I'm quite sure about one thing, in my opinion, I can be wrong, that the NPAs in the banks will be far lesser than what people are anticipating. And yesterday, of all the banks, people will be shocked that State Bank moratorium figure is lower than all the so-called big banks, the best of the banks with the best quality assets.
So if I could divide the economy into, let's say, 3 parts: survival, revival, and growth, how will this plunge or how will this crisis, in a sense, change the shape of the Indian economy? What will survive, what will revive, and what will come back strongly?
No, but see, I think most companies will survive. And then there are some companies who will be very good, who will start straight with the growth phase. Some will come with the revival phase, and some will mature and then mature to the growth phase. Some will start with survival, then go to revival, and then go to growth. So it's a process. Every company will be placed differently. But what's not only important is who will survive and who will grow, but at what price those stocks are. Some of the best returns may be given in companies which we feel will have difficulty in surviving.
Markets, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, in last couple of years, I would say 4 to 5 years, have gone completely wrong in predicting the market cycle. In your own words, markets always move in anticipation of earnings. Every time markets have gone forward, pre-crisis also earnings have disappointed. Why do you think markets this time may not go wrong again?
Well, they can always go wrong again. Who says they cannot? Right? But my feeling is that we are in the start of another bull market. And see, the market has not gone anywhere for the last 4 years. Right? So I think And with the reduction in interest rates, the cleansing of corporate India, and I personally feel government will increase government expenditure once the lockdown opens.
Has government done, there are three ways in which government can stimulate an economy, sir. Create liquidity, which they've done. Second, they could do monetary action, which Reserve Bank of India frankly has done to some extent. But on the fiscal front, somewhere government is not committed to spending at all. The package which the Prime Minister announced, the contours do not add up to a big package of spending.
Well, I agree, but I feel they will ultimately do it.
So
they are waiting to assess the damage, and I think they will do it. They will do something, I feel.
Where will the risk capital in the economy come from? Because consumer will slow down. Private sector is either risk averse or does not have the capital. Do you think ultimately it is the government, not only in India but globally, which will have to do all the heavy lifting?
No, why individuals will do it? Private companies will do it. Someone has provided 53,000 crores to Reliance. It is risk capital. No? So risk capital will always be available.
What is in store for banks when the moratorium will get lifted?
I don't think the NPAs will be as high as people are anticipating. I don't think the NPAs will be high in the secured personal loans in the corporate sector. Even in the unsecured personal, I think they will. See, India is a very, the level of debt, consumer debt in India is extremely low. The total debt to GDP in Japan, in America, in China is 325%, is 125% in India. Right? So I think the actual NPAs will be far lower than the anticipation of people and analysts. That's my personal opinion. I reserve the right to do that.
And you expect that both at the corporate level and also at the retail level?
Yes, SMEs is difficult to predict, MSMEs. But this loans with the provision, the help that the government is giving of 20% of their existing limits, I think will be very useful. Also, I feel that corporate India is going to be, with whatever companies, private companies or listed companies which I manage and interact, that there is, corporate India is going to come out of this COVID a very highly more efficient. I mean, I have an investment in a company where we had 600 laborers. Now we found in 450 we can do the same production.
Banks are getting ruthlessly punished on one side, but on the other side, when Mr. Kotak wants to sell his stake, he can sell it like makhan and butter one day, and he's able to raise 6,000 crore. So what is going on in banks?
Well, there is a lot of demand for qualitative and quantitative stocks. If you have a quality management which has performed and you have a large block of stocks, the investors would like to write $100 million single checks, $50 million single checks. So this shows in labor, in Kotak, the kind of demand there is for Indian people.
But do you think the suffering which has happened in banks is largely an issue of over-ownership and it is not a reflection of the economy?
Well, over-ownership is a technical reason, but also it is more than anything, it's an expression of fear. See, what markets don't like is uncertainty. And certainly I agree with the people that there is uncertainty regarding the NPs. And this will be known only by December. So I expect the financials to be in a range until December.
But for NBFCs, do you think barring 5, 6 or maybe, 1 dozen NBFCs, other NBFCs will be in trouble? Some of them will get wiped out. Is that one sector which will be a clear casualty, not because of crisis, but because of...
I think they'll get wiped out. I think they'll get consolidated. And depends on which sector the NBFC is in. I think those who are in housing finance will not be so badly affected. Those who have big exposure to the real estate and MSMEs may be affected.
Now, you said that now you've always been a believer in making big predictions. And when Rakesh Jhunjhunwala speaks on TV, he rarely speaks. So it's a pleasure for us to have you back. But when he speaks, he always obliges us with one big prediction. Like you spoke about Pharma some years ago. manufacturing. So for this decade, sir, what is your big picture? What is your big prediction? I need a headline from you.
The headline is that this, in posterity, when we look upon the COVID, we will think, oh, we were so frightened. Really? So I think the overhyping of this COVID will be one thing which we always remember.
When you read about Stanley Druckenmiller, Warren Buffett, Sam Zeel, he was on my show last week. All of them have made billions by investing in cycle. When the old boys club in America starts getting bearish, one starts thinking that, "Arey, ye kyun itne bearish hai?"
Well, that's their opinion. Best of luck. We have not made wealth by aping anybody. Right? So, and Sandy Druckenmiller or Roy Dalio or not Warren Buffett, but all of them have been bearish for long periods of time. It's not that the COVID has made them bearish.
Are you betting on the front foot right now, sir?
I'm betting on the front foot means I'm always fully invested, more than fully invested. At the moment also I'm more than fully invested.
So you never had a thought that, look, it's time to raise cash in the portfolio even in March or April when markets fell?
Well, I had sold in January, February. I had reduced my leverage. And I thought, the March valuations, I did not have any reason that I should sell at those prices. And the market did not give you time to react. It rebounded so fast.
Is that the new normal of what, whether it is machine or algorithm or ETF, that cycles will get contracted? I mean, we will not be in a 5-year bull market and a 3-year bear market now. It's 1 year, you will see hell and heaven both.
Well, I think in America, we have been in a 40-year bull market. We are basically on a bull market. You have had small corrections in, say, 99, 2000, in 2008, or you're on a continuous bull market. So, there can be a short-term trend, a medium-term trend, a long-term trend, and a long-term trend. The long-term trend everywhere is bullish. But I think cycles can get contracted. But I don't think 5 years of bull markets are going to have 3 years of bear markets. 5 years of bull markets are going to have 1.5 years of bear markets.
Rakesh Jhunjhunwala once told me that it is difficult to predict the weather, which is short term, but he is good at predicting seasons, which is the long term. So let's talk about the seasons, the long term, 3 years, 5 years. In last 10 years, equities have not given good returns. They've not even given you double-digit returns if I look at the last decade. In this decade.
Who says that, Nikunj? My portfolio from the trough of 2009 to today has done wonderfully well. Markets have not given return in the last 3 years, from 2017-18 to today. Not for the last decade.
No, I was talking about the general small cap, mid cap, and also the Nifty. It's not given great returns.
I have investment in all kinds of caps. There has been good return from 2009 to 2017. I had very good return. Maybe it's from 18, 19, 20, the last 2 years that the returns are not good.
How do you think the consumer behavior in India and the world will change? Some people are talking about, okay, luxury spend will be less. People will not spend, people will spend, but they will spend on low branded products. What's your sense on consumer behavior?
I think that will not last beyond 3 to 6 months. I don't expect much change in consumer behavior over a longer term. And I'm not competent and I don't want to predict what they will do in the short term.
We can divide the market into two. Companies which are growing but are expensive but are the darlings of the market. Companies which give a lot of value for a value investor like you, which is like ITC or a BHEL or a State Bank of India. How does one invest in this kind of a market? Because the darlings are expensive and going higher and the value stocks are only becoming cheaper.
Got to make some mix of the darlings and the battered. But I think at the moment I will invest in the battered stock rather than the darlings.
We spoke about PSU stocks immediately after the corporate tax cut. That was about 9 months ago. And you said PSU stocks offer a lot of value. Nobody is recognizing it.
I think if the government comes out with a coherent disinvestment policy, see, if you sell ITC 10% of LIC, and then you're going to sell 5% of LIC every year, LIC is not going to go up. So unless and until the government sets a defined and coherent disinvestment policy, it will be difficult for the public sector to perform. Or if the government disinvests, if the government sets a coherent disinvestment policy and does strategic disinvestment, then I think the public sector can really outperform the government. Because the values are unbelievable.
So can I say in market terminology, government now has to deal with a margin call because of the financial situation, and they will have to make some, selling now?
Well, I don't think, partly because of the margin call and partly they truly realize that it's not the business of government to be in business. And second thing is, if they make a coherent disinvestment policy, not every year they sell one of the companies to another public sector company, or they use a public sector company money to buy other companies, or take needless dividends, or at the last moment panic and sell everything at any value. So, that is going to make a very big difference.
The new normal, everyone is saying that it could be a combination of digital plus digital implementation plus telecom. Do you agree with that?
I don't think so. Everything in life is not going to be digital. I mean, there could be some movement toward digital, but everything is not going to be digital. Boss, did you get the pleasure of this interview or as much as if you had been interviewing me face to face? So that human interaction will be needed.
I'm waiting for the day where I get a call from you that come to my office or come to my house for a coffee and for an interview, and I really hope that day comes very soon.
June 30th, I'll be in my office.
Okay, so I look forward to that, and I look forward to talking to you perhaps from your office just to establish that how life is coming back to normal. This question will get a lot of smile on your face. Your conviction on pharma, finally, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, is coming true.
Yeah, they're performing well, but I think it's the start of a long innings. It's not a T20, it's a test match.
For any sector to go higher, ultimately earnings have to catch up. And I remember when the last pharma rally happened, which is 2014, 15, 16, you said, look, I'm a long-term bull in pharma, but pharma companies in India have this chalta hai attitude. You think now that chalta hai attitude is gone?
Yeah, I think it has gone. Also, Indian companies are now strategically too important to America. We supply 35 to 40% of all medicines, generic medicine, of all medicine consumed in America. Right? It's not easy to replicate that competitive position. And I think this health crisis will also lead to faster growth of the Indian pharma market and of pharma usage all over the world.
When a crisis happens, the survivors, they come back. And a clear example here is that, when the TMT bubble happened, Amazon came back. The TMT bubble came back. So in the pharma also, unlike last time where, Chintu, Mintu, Intu, every Tom, Dick and Harry in the pharma space got re-rated in the market. Do you think in this pharma rally, 10, 15 stocks will only go higher?
That happens in every rally. It doesn't happen only in the large one. Even the small. In fact, when a sector comes in favor, it is the small caps and the mid caps, which percentage-wise give much greater return than the large caps.
No, so what I'm trying to understand from you, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, is that you expect a full big pharma market for pharma bull run, or you expect?
Yeah, I think so. It will be the breadth of that rise will be very good.
When I look at the market caps of Amazon, how Reliance stock is touched an all-time high, how Microsoft has made a comeback.
I would not like to comment.
No, I'm trying to understand, not an individual company, I respect it. I'm trying to understand that markets currently are voting for only big players. Big are only becoming bigger. Large companies are becoming mega companies. And that's the trend in the initial phase of the bull market. Why is that?
No, that's not that is also a trend in the economic reality, That the way Google has reinvented itself or the way Microsoft has reinvented itself. These companies have really performed.
What will be the importance of this year's US presidential election given the backdrop?
I think if Trump wins the election, I don't think anything's going to change. If Mr. Biden wins, I don't know. There could be implications.
Last decade or last couple of decades has been about deglobalization, globalization. Economies have been opening up. The relationship between US and China may be sour right now, but it has worked beautifully well. Is that the biggest risk for global financial economy now?
I think deglobalization, the change toward deglobalization will be very limited. There is too much interdependence, and there is too much economic advantage of the interdependence for it to be cut. Right? And don't forget that the Western world also is a large beneficiary of the rise of China. Because China supplies goods at very competitive prices, and China is also a very large market for the American and the European companies and Japanese companies. So there will be some deglobalization, but globalization's essence will be retained in my view.
You've been talking about concerns in the private space, the startup space, that look, valuations were too strong to sustain, and that's one space where things are getting smoked. What would be the implications of this?
I think now capital will not be easily available, and valuations will take a drubbing in my opinion, especially after the listing of Uber and the other companies where the valuations are today 25 or 35, 40% of the listed valuations and 25% of what they were at the peak when they were not listed. I think valuations will take a drubbing and capital will move over.
Are you a big believer in this entire term which everybody is using, including a company like TCS, which is work from home? Will it happen?
Well, I think 5-10% work will go home. But in India, houses are too small, right? And there is a social gathering and social learning in working from offices. And but if I don't go to office, Rekha asked me the next day, "Aajkal office khula nahi hai kya?" The lady is the queen of the house when the husband is not there. So I don't think it's going to be so easy, especially a city like Bombay, for people to work totally from home. But I think 15-20% work could shift.
So what does that mean for commercial real estate?
I don't think in India commercial real estate is going to go down. Because I think with all this digitization, I'm very bullish on the amount of work that will come to India in the software sector.
You always say that when you see an opportunity, you go full in, deep dive. And one very famous quote of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, which everybody quotes, is that if there is a beautiful girl, she will find a suitor. So what is a beautiful girl in this market?
Well, I would like to keep my opinion about girls and markets to myself.
But where do you see this opportunity? Like you feel like
there is no opportunity, Nikunj, and I am not going to talk about any individual companies.
No, I'm not getting into individual companies. I'm just trying to understand, your thoughts.
No, the whole market is an opportunity. If any company that you think is going to survive is an opportunity.
Okay. Is there merit in assuming that rural economy will make a comeback? Because if I look at stocks in agri space, a company like Escorts or Hero Motorcorp, is there merit in believing that now rural economy will do slightly better than urban economy?
No, I'm told the agriculture economy is doing very well. It is not much affected by the lockdown. We have had a very good rabi crop. There is hope we will have a very good kharif crop also. So I think the rural economy should do well, and government has pumped a lot of money to rural areas by terms of the employment schemes and other schemes. So I see no reason why the agrarian economy will not do well. If the agrarian economy does well, even the others can do well. It's not only the agrarian economy that will. It's not. They can complement each other.
Have you become tech savvy of late? Because technology is something which you've always said that, look, I'm not a technology guy.
I'm not a technology guy, but I can use technology to the extent I need it. Otherwise, I take help from my children.
Your daughter is a teenager. Your boys would be teenager very soon. What are you telling them as a father, as a parent, to explain this crisis, what it means for them? Because I'm sure they're asking you, obvious questions.
Well, I'm cautioning them that it's not the cancer, it's not a plague. Don't have a fear psychosis like your mother. It will also go. And if you get it, it's not a cancer, it's not a plague.
So when working from home, who's the boss of the house? Mrs. Jhunjhunwala, Mr. Jhunjhunwala?
Sometimes I, sometimes Mrs. Jhunjhunwala.
Your 60th birthday is coming, 2020. You had earmarked that number as a big number for yourself personally also.
Right.
On your 60th birthday, what is your plan?
Nothing. No plans. Only realizing that we live 60 years, so we have finite life. Do what you want fast.
If I have to conclude today's interaction, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, and please correct me if my summary is wrong, your view and your message to our viewers, people who follow you, is that the COVID crisis was overdone and one should use the current crisis to the opportunity to build serious long-term.
No, I feel the fear psychosis around the COVID has been created is not called for. It's a problem. It's a war. We have to fight it, and we will win it. And I think we will come to normalcy far faster than what people are anticipating.
Will this be a good decade in general for a passive investor or for a SIP investor? Should one prepare for a good 5-7 years?
I know if the markets go up, I don't know about passive and active. It will be good for everybody. Yeah? I'm an active investor, so I don't think about passive investor.
Anything which could trump your optimism. Last time you told me it could be a nuclear war, but I don't think nuclear war will happen right now.
I think a very second reoccurrence could be damaging, but I don't think that's happening. It has happened. It hasn't happened in China. It hasn't happened in Korea. It's not happening in Germany when they opened up. It's not happened in America also. There were so many people who went for the Memorial Day. It is, as of now, the infections have not increased much. So I am hopeful that second phase will not take place.
So when does the mother of all the bull markets start then? Indeed, the big bull market which we
I think it has started.
It has started. So are we in for earning expansion, P expansion? What should we expect?
Well, it'll be a bull market if there is both expansion, P and EPS.
So if the market was a 50 over match, last question, which over we are in?
Well, I think bull markets are test matches. They are not 50 over matches.
So what will make this bull market a tie and what will give bull markets bulls a decisive victory?
Pardon? What did you say?
No. So if it's a 5-day match, what will make...
It's a 5-day match and then there is a series, no?
Okay.
A test match is a series.
It is such a great point. I want to just compliment you on the way you've really broken up the kind of opportunity which lies in front of us. But thank you for joining us, Mr. Jhunjhunwala. You are one voice people have been waiting to hear. Thank you for your time.
I want to give you an example.
Yes, please.
If any XYZ stock price ultimately goes to 1,000, do you remember whether you bought it at 150 or 250?
Yes. So you see you feel the same about the market.
The reasons will come later.
What could be the reason? I mean, I know you understand market cycles much more than anyone else. So what could be the reason which markets are not realizing, which you realized today?
Markets are realizing it. They are doing well.
No, Janta is not realizing.
Realizing it.
Let me put you out.
Liquidity driven. The reason is that we have had a bear market for 2 years. We have had some fundamentally, earnings have not grown for 5-6 years. Interest rates have gone down. So finally, I think this cycle of non-growth in earnings may be coming to an end, right? And the interest rates are, very much favorable for the stock market. And there's a lot of money waiting to be invested. And there has been a shakeout. The holding of foreigners has come down from 45% in the NSE 500 to 23%.
So can we finally stop dropping obsession with this foreign flows? As television commentators, I know you've criticized me in the past that kya tum gorai ka paisa bolte ho. But finally the obsession is getting...
Every player in the market is important. No one is more important, no one is less important. Jiske paas checkbook hai, wo important to rahega hi. But he's not the only person with a checkbook. There are Indians also with checkbooks.